Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. I am Kevin Lieber. I am flying solo this week, and I put Jerry Bloop, of all people, in the thumbnail for, well, a couple of reasons. One is that I recently had to give a presentation about me, which I had never had to do before. Which was a little difficult. I don't know, it's kind of weird to decide what you're going to say about yourself. So I kind of took the easy route and just put together a bit of a slideshow showing just the different projects that I have worked on over the years. One of which, obviously, was Jerry Bloop, and the lore, the Vsauce lore there that some people have heard before, others may have not, is that Jerry Bloop is the reason that I started working on Vsauce, because at the time that Vsauce was first created, it was a video game comedy channel. There was a company called Next New Networks that had a very popular channel called Barely Political at the time. Some of you elderly YouTubers may remember Obama Girl, which was a bit of a viral sensation. That was Barely Political. And the idea was, well, the political humor stuff is popular. What other kind of comedy can we do? People like video games on the internet. So that was Vsauce. And at that time, I was making these videos called Uninformed Video Game Reviews with a character called Jerry Bloop. You could still find these videos on just my Kevin Lieber YouTube channel if you've never watched them before. I'm not sure that I recommend that you do. Maybe you would find something amusing about them in 2026. I don't know. But anyway, I did that because I love video games. I was inspired by James Rolfe and the Angry Video Game Nerd. And the idea was, what if instead of being highly informed as a video game reviewer, it was someone who'd never even played the game before and pretty much just tried to review the game based upon the title of the game. It's kind of a meme now that so many games journalists are terrible at video games. And so maybe Jerry was like a little bit ahead of his time in that regard. But anyway, I I don't talk all that often about video games on this podcast, even though I'm kind of always playing something. It's really been my main hobby forever. So I play a lot of games, play a lot of old games, but I do play new games as well. And I figured if I'm flying solo today, what's up, Bonnie, in the chat? I will talk about the tale of two games that have come out recently, because within the span of maybe 2 weeks or so, two games have come out. One of which is like confusingly not good, and the other one is phenomenally excellent, and I love it. So, do we want to complain first? I assume that we want to complain first. People always are more interested in negative reactions, I think, than positive ones. So the bad one is called Beast of Reincarnation, and it is made by a company, a developer called Game Freak, known for Pokemon games. Now, here is a controversial opinion that will get me canceled. I'm not into Pokemon, and I never have been. I I don't like the setting. I don't like the vibes. Like, the little cute animals don't do anything for me. I don't. Not a huge fan of the gameplay. So I have tried to play some Pokemon games I don't know if I ever lasted more than 3 or 4 hours, and just wasn't into it. I have played Shin Megami Tensei games, which I consider like horror Pokemon. And I mean, it's pretty similar in terms of the mechanics, where it's a lot of grinding, turn-based battles. You're trying to recruit the enemies and bring them to your side and like build out your team of all these demons instead of Pokemon. And I have enjoyed a few of those games. But this Beast of Reincarnation game is a huge departure for Game Freak. You know, it seems like they're taking a big risk here and making obviously a non Pokemon game, a completely new IP. It is, I suppose, considered an action RPG. It's not a Souls like, even though I think for some people, maybe the difficulty of it could be reminiscent of Souls-like games, but it's not a Souls-like. But it does, I it might be considered parry slop. That's kind of a term that I think started with Expedition 33, parry slop games. Anyway, Beast of Reincarnation is, well, first of all, the good stuff. The graphics are really nice. I think it looks visually very nice. I think a lot of the designs are really nice. The character designs, the animal designs, some of the world design, but that kind of leans into the negative territory too, because of just how repetitive it is. But repetitive is like the big word I would use for this game. I have not actually watched a lot of reviews on it. I thought it just looked cool from the trailers, pre-ordered it, you know, probably shouldn't have, probably should have waited for the reviews on this one because the reviews weren't great. But anyway, sunk my $60 in and decided to play it and continue to play it out of spite, which is a concept that a longtime listener of the podcast, Demetrius, used when talking about 100%ing Metroid Prime 4, that he 100%ed that game purely out of spite, which I find very funny. And now I think of that actually quite a lot. It's been planted in my brain as a concept to, slog through things just purely out of spite. So I was playing Beast of Reincarnation purely out of spite, because let me try to give you some examples, first of all, of how repetitive it is. One of the major things with most video games, I would say, um, as far as like how you would critique how interesting it continues to be, is like enemy variety. Um, so like how many different types of enemies there are. Are there werewolves and vampires and big golems and, you know, scary mean chickens that you have to fight, and brigands and skeletons and ghosts and specters and magicians and, that type of thing. All different types of variety of filling, one of those D&D compendiums front to back with all the different ghouls and ghosts and goblins and monsters that you may encounter. In Beast of Reincarnation, there's like uh, five. There's like five enemies that you fight over. It's like the robot guys. There are like some boars and some birds. There's a bear. So what do I have so far? But even like the robot guys, it's not like there's all different types of robot guys, like big hulking ones and like cowboy ones and samurai ones and little, impish ones. Or they're pretty much just the same, with like the same move sets over and over and over again. I swear that you're just fighting the same 5 might be exaggerating. Could it be even 10 though? It's like really not that many. And for a game that takes you, I think it's like a roughly 20-hour game, fighting the same like 7 enemies over and over again gets old really, really fast. Here's the kicker though. The bosses might even be worse. Like you are just fighting this same freaking boss over and over and over again. Like there's like 3 bosses that you fight like 12 times. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. I genuinely can't even compare it to anything. Like if anybody listening or in the comments can think of another game where you're just fighting the same bosses. There's like a big deer, there's an alligatory kind of thing, and some kind of piggish thing or a bear. I don't know. I don't know. They're covered in flowers. You know, there'll be like a giant bear, and then he has, you know, in the circus in the old days, there'd be a bear like in a tutu. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Did this only exist in cartoons? No, I think this was real. Everything that was in cartoons came from something in real life, I'm sure. And bears and tutus, I'm sure, were like a rampant attraction from Barnum and Bailey at the turn of the century. There's kind of a bear in a tutu as a boss, except the tutu is not around its waist and it's not a tutu. It's like flower petals and it's around its neck. Anyway, the point is the enemy variety, horrible. The boss variety is like legendarily horrible. Like just should be number 1 on a top 10 list of like worst boss varieties or variation in at least in modern gaming. I'm sure there are some like old Nintendo games where it's the same boss, like some, I don't know, Double Dragon kind of game where they just changed the color of his pants. You have to fight the same character model 7 times, depending on what color pants that he has. But those 2 things horrible. Level design. There's like no puzzles at all. There's like nothing to figure out. There's kind of no exploration to speak of. I mean, there is like a little tiny bit, but here's another weird thing, like a really weird thing. You know, in most RPGs, you have to collect doodads, and then over the course of the game, hopefully you've collected all of the doodads and you get some kind of power. It's not even really just RPGs. You have all of those like collectathon games that are like that too, platformers and stuff. Anyway, I maxed without trying, without like wandering off the beaten path for hours on end. I maxed out like almost everything halfway through the game. I was done. Like I maxed out my relationship with Ku, the big wolf who's like your companion, who's cool and like was a cool idea. Maxed him out halfway through the game. Maxed out the girl who cooks for you. I think her name is Kagura. Halfway through the game, there was like nothing else to unlock with her, and I still had half the game to go. Maxed out um upgrade, like the ability to upgrade different stuff in like the hub area. I had collected like every single seed for all the vegetables that you could grow, like all really on. It was really weird. So the balancing of the progression in that game is way off. Like there's no other way to describe it because in any other game, not only is it like hard to max out most attributes, But usually, like, that's like an end game task, right? You get to the end of a game and you spend, 10 hours just going back around through different areas trying to collect, all of the flowers and the balls that glow and whatever it is, whatever game you're playing. That's like end game content, or stuff that you do before you tackle the final boss. In Beast of Reincarnation, you're done. You're done halfway through the game. You're like, "Oh, I guess I shouldn't collect anything." It's like the only things that I could have continued to unlock, I guess, or like skill tree things, which also are kind of irrelevant. So the skill tree is really weird. Like, the abilities are really weird. You get these new abilities after defeating the bosses, sort of like Mega Man, I guess, where the boss can do some move, and then after you defeat the boss, you can do the move. But all the moves are kind of the same. It's all just like shooting flower buds at enemies. Just like, I don't know who is sitting around prior to this game thinking, gosh, I wish someday someone would make a game where I could shoot flower buds at enemies. That didn't seem like high on the priority list of like cool things to be able to do in a video game. But that's all there is. It's like shooting roots and flowers. That's how you fight. You have a sword. So the different swords are kind of cool. Again, in theory, they have different like elemental attributes. One can like, draw lightning down from the sky. Another one is fire powered and shoots waves of fire. Neat. I like it. It's cool. It's super unclear to me like how much the status effects matter. And it was also unclear to me how much the special moves in terms of like choosing one of the other one matter. So it's not like, I'll go back to Mega Man. In Mega Man, right? Like the major sort of mechanic of Mega Man is to collect specific boss weapons that fight other, or that are other bosses are weak to. Okay, so hey Ava, what's going on? Thanks for joining the live stream. So in like Mega Man 2, you want to get Metal Man's like gear, and Metal Man's gear will wipe out Waterman or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, that doesn't seem to be a thing in Beast of Reincarnation. It's not like, oh, now that I have this special fire flower thing, now I can utilize that. Like, there's no strategy. There is no strategy. I know that I saw people online were complaining about the difficulty. If you are a veteran of action RPGs and like specifically harder, like Souls games, like the FromSoft games, or the first Berserker Khazan, or Wuchang Fallen Feathers, Sekiro. If you're familiar with those games, you'll wipe this game. Like Beast of Reincarnation is a joke. You wipe the floor with everyone. It's just, the special moves are like weirdly overpowered too. So when you're just kind of hitting the boss with your sword, it's not doing a whole lot. But all of a sudden, you build up whatever your little flower gauge is, and you unleash your special move, and it just drains their health bar, like just absolutely wipes it out. It makes very little sense. As far as the level design, again, I mentioned there's like no puzzles. There's not really much to figure out. It's a lot of like, go here and hit this switch to open this gate. Like every level is like, time to open up another gate. Oh boy. I wonder what I'll do in this level. Oh, open another gate. Here we go, and that's it. Um, there's no like side crypts or dungeons to explore to like get upgrades. Oh, and then the other thing is the way that the story is told, like the cutscenes are excruciatingly slow. I don't remember another game in which I just wish I could hit a fast forward button. Also, you cannot skip the cutscenes at all. I'm sure they'll probably patch this because that's a crazy oversight. But as of right now, you cannot skip the cutscenes. So you have to see, so you have to sit there and sit through them. And it's hard to describe how slow they are, but it's almost like they're in slow motion. One character will be like, "How are you?" And the other one will be like, "I am not feeling well." And then the other one says, "What's wrong?" And then the other one says, "I don't know who I am." And it's just like 20 minutes of that. So that's bad too. All of it is just confusing outside of the fact that I assume they ran out of money and just had to put the game out because it's like it's like 6 hour of game stretched out over like 20 something. And there are a lot of ideas there that needed a lot more work. And like another, I don't know, 2 years of fleshing out to make it like constantly interesting, to add more enemy variety, add more boss variety, do something about the pacing of the story and the cutscenes. All of it is just really hard for me to recommend. So I don't. I don't recommend it. If you find it on a deep discount at some time and you just want to, sate your curiosity, go for it. And maybe by then they've patched out some of the things that I'm complaining about. But for the most part, I don't think that they can. Like I don't think like a lot of the like major issues with it are really fixable, at this point. I don't think they're like swapping in new bosses, swapping in like way more enemy types or anything like that. The way that you move around too, again, was a kind of a cool idea where you can go very vertical. Like your hair turns into roots and it will like spring you up. So there's a lot of verticality to it. You can also shoot the roots like across gaps. Um, so that you can, travel across distances, but like none of that is implemented in any way in which you ever feel like you used your brain to figure anything out. There's no like aha moments. It's just where do I go? Okay, go up there. All right, how do I get up there? All right, just go over here. Like the traversal is such a problem and all the environments look so samey. They literally just stick gigantic arrows in places, like big arrows. They're just like, just go here. Like this is where you're supposed to go. Just follow this arrow. But it's not like an arrow flashes on screen. It's gonna be like a big arrow in a wall. And you're like, okay, guys, that seems like an indication of poor level design. That you're like, maybe we stick an arrow here because nobody knows where to go. And that's with like markers and stuff for you to follow. Anyway, Beast of Reincarnation, uh, that's going to be a no from me, dog. As Randy Jackson once said. So here's the other side of the coin. Okay, the other side of the coin is this: Mortal Shell 2 I think is one of the greatest sequels to a game of all time. I absolutely think that. Now, when I first thought that, I thought it is the greatest sequel of all time to a game. Then I but whenever I think such declarative things like that, I always assume that I'm wrong, and I'm for sure wrong about this one because of Street Fighter 2. Like, Street Fighter 2 was so incredible, and Street Fighter 1 kinda stinks. So and I also haven't really thought about it any more than that, so if anybody, in the comments wants to list the sequels that were way better than the first game, let me know. But for sure, Street Fighter 2 was way better than Street Fighter 1. But with Mortal Shell, I like Mortal Shell 1. I bought Mortal Shell 1 twice. Like, I had the whatever special edition was on PS4, and I finished that. And then when they did an upgraded version of it for PS5, I bought that. I like Mortal Shell 1. But it's kind of a rough game. It's very short. It's very slow. If anybody has played the original Mortal Shell, they will. A lot of people didn't like it flat out, like hated the game because of how slow it is. It is clunky. Might be too harsh of a word, but others might use the word clunky to describe Mortal Shell 1 because the combat, so it is a Souls-like, 100% is a Souls-like game based or inspired by Dark Souls. The the combat though was so slow, like so slow, that really like the only way to win battles in Mortal Shell was basically to jump attack, hit the enemy once, and then like run away over and over and over again, like almost no matter what enemy type it was, or if it was a boss or whatever. The fighting was not this like dynamic dance that some games are like Khazan is like that. If anybody has played Khazan might have the craziest boss battles of any of these games, I think. Sekiro has great boss battles as well. Sekiro is like doing a crazy ninja dance. Mortal Shell is like whatever the opposite of a crazy ninja dance is. It's just like this plodding. I mean, you literally turn to stone. You literally turn to stone. That's the shell, as you turn into stone in order to defend yourself. Well, again, I liked that game. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people gave up on it. They had a hard time with how slow it was and how kind of janky and clunky it was. And you know, probably considered it like a 6 out of 10 sort of game. Not me. I thought it was like a 7.5 out of 10, maybe. I think that's fair. Anyway, Mortal Shell 2 is one of the coolest games I've ever played in my entire life. Within like the first, I don't know, hour or so of it, and this like you get through the prologue and there's this like gloomy, brooding, atmospheric black metal playing as you're like walking through this like craggy mountain. And you look all messed up, look all kind of this gross demon guy with this gigantic sword. And I'm sitting there and I literally am like, this is the coolest thing ever. It is so awesome. Like the atmosphere, the designs, the violence. Yeah. It is probably the most violent Souls-like game ever made. I mean, I have pretty much played all of them. I mean, I have played Souls-likes that most people have never heard of, like Enotria and Timesia and these kinds of games. And Mortal Shell 2 is just like bloody, gushing, decapitation, limb loss, like gnarly, gnarly violence. The kind of violence that, was really shocking when Mortal Kombat came out. When Mortal Kombat came out, the entire planet was like, what are we doing here? Like ripping heads off? And you have a spinal cord dangling? Like, this is depraved. Like, this is beyond anything that should even be remotely acceptable, in a civilized society. Anyway, Mortal Shell 2 sort of, to me, like, invokes that vibe again of like, whoa, like, we are just like ripping limbs off in this game and just stabbing and stabbing and stabbing demons in the neck until blood goes everywhere. And so, one of the things, there's so many things that are really, really great with Mortal Shell 2. One of them, and this is another thing that definitely this game does better than any Souls like I've ever seen, is that like the visceral kill animations are almost all unique, dependent upon the enemy. So, uh, in if you've played Souls like games and you know that you can like parry and riposte, and it'll like there'll be like a red glowing dot, which means you can do like some kind of instant kill, right? Like a visceral kill from Bloodborne. You can do that in Mortal Shell 2, but what I'm saying is, depending on who you're doing that to, what the type of enemy it is, whether it is this like big guy with a spear, or it's like a spider looking thing, or it's kind of like a crab looking like mimic, that has like a treasure chest shell. No matter what it is, it's like a brand new animation for how you brutally, like horrifically, violently slaughter them. And I don't know if explaining it in words really does justice to how thrilling it is playing the game. Because as I was explaining in my ripping of Beast of Reincarnation, where everything is just so repetitive and looks exactly the same. Well, in something like Mortal Shell 2, where even like the kill animations are different depending on who the enemy is, it just creates this like ongoing sense of adventure and excitement, and like something to kind of look forward to as you're playing the game. Even if, it seems just kind of like a tiny thing, like, oh, it kill animation, like who cares? Well, actually, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge, huge difference that, if you do a kill animation to like this like little woman with a spear, then you like grab her spear and you impale her with it. Or if you do the kill animation to this like Cthulhu looking thing with these like tentacles coming out of its face, that you like grab those tentacles and you like bash his skull in, like one of those paddle ball games. Like you use his little Cthulhu skull like a paddle ball game and just crush his head. Um, it adds immersion to the game, a really strong sense of immersion. And at the end of the day, like that's what you're looking for in any type of entertainment, is immersion, whether it's watching a football game or a movie or reading a book or playing a video game, you want to be immersed in the thing. You want to, dissolve your ego and sort of become part of, whatever the thing you're trying to and be invested in is. And holy crap, the gameplay loop and the world design and the atmosphere and the music and the enemy variety and the enemy designs, and you have all these different shells that you can collect. So that's kind of like the main thrust of the game. Is I believe there are 8 total. I only have 2 so far. I believe there are 8 total shells, and then each shell has a different um, or has a bunch of different abilities and pluses and minuses, basically. So, like for example, this isn't really a spoiler. It's like one of the I think it is. It's basically the first shell that you get is kind of a thief sort of character who, if you dump some points into one of their, we'll call it a skill tree areas, you not only can become immune to poison, eventually poison can heal you, which is really cool. So if you are in some swampy bog where a bunch of enemies are like farting poison dust at you, and you have this thief and he has this ability, then all of a sudden, not only are you not being poisoned and taking, chip damage, it's actually healing you. It's actually a benefit. You're like, oh, thank you. Thank you, Swamp Demon, for farting in my face because you just healed me. And now I can, adventure a little further. And that's just like one attribute of one of the shells. And there are many of them. On top of that, there are like a whole bunch of different weapons. And, that's really another thing in a lot of these games and a lot of like action RPGs and a lot of Souls likes. You want to have weapon variety and you want to have not only like weapons that look different but have different move sets or they feel different. There's different weights to them so that if you have this like katana, you can cut really fast. But if you have this big hammer, it goes really slow, but it does like tons of stagger damage or just damage overall or whatever. Like you guys, you know what I'm talking about. That's another place where like Beast of Reincarnation, even though there's a whole bunch of different swords and they do have some kind of elemental abilities, which is neat, it's all kind of like at best cosmetic. Oh, that is another thing that bothered me with, speaking of cosmetics, with Beast of Reincarnation, is you can get different armor, but it doesn't change the appearance. So you look exactly the same. You're wearing the same like hat and like raincoat, no matter what armor you pick up, which again sounds like a little thing, but like all these little things really do add up, or subtract, and can make or break your immersion in a game. So, um, in Mortal Shell 2, the a- and also to compare it to Beast of Reincarnation, it's kind of like level. It's broken up by chapter, and each chapter, they're not very long. The world's not very big. There's like not a whole lot to find. Mortal Shell 2 is kind of huge. I mean, I'm only a few hours into it, so it's hard to say, like, ultimately how large the map is, compared to other games like Elden Ring or something like that. But last night I was lost, like 100% had no idea where I was. And if you've played hard Souls like games, you know that being lost is the worst because for a couple of reasons. One, if you die and you lose your souls or whatever game you're playing, whatever it's called, I always just call them souls for simplicity's sake, souls and bonfires. If you lose your souls and you don't remember how you got there, that is a problem depending on like how many you lose. So that sucks. And then the other thing that sucks is just not knowing which direction will lead you to potentially a bonfire or sometimes a boss fight. That's the worst. I had this happen to me in Wuchang Fallen Feathers a few times where I'm like looking to save and I walk straight into a boss arena and I'm like, oh no. This is like literally the last place I want it to be right now. Because especially in that game, I there were very few bosses that I think I defeated on my first try in that game. That game had some hard bosses. But anyway, in Mortal Shell 2, you have a lot of options for which way to go. And there's a lot of density within the levels themselves. So you can go through the same area a few times and find things that you missed, which to me is like the hallmark of good level design. I loved the level design of Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. I was like obsessed with the level design of that game. There were so many paths and ladders and all of this stuff, but at the same time, I never felt like too overwhelmed because there's a big difference between like having a lot of optionality, making it interesting, and having it feel overwhelming and confusing. I could see maybe some people finding it overwhelming and confusing in Wu Chang, but to me, it was like the perfect balance. I was like, whoa, there are a lot of paths, a lot of things to interconnect, locked doors I could open later to create shortcuts. Like all of that stuff is really, really good in Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, which is another game that not enough people talk about. I loved that game. I think that was my favorite game of last year. I think. I'm pretty sure it was. That was my game of the year last year was Wu Chang. And yeah, like nobody talks about that game. Same thing with First Berserker Khazan, which was like my second favorite game last year. Like both of those companies like, went out of business. And supposedly the creator of Wu Chang like got the rights back somehow and is going to make a sequel. I don't know what's going on with Kazan. Probably nothing. Hopefully something. But like that game was great. Anyway, Mortal Shell. Back to Mortal Shell. The some of the enemy designs and the boss designs are wild. They're almost in some ways more like Resident Evil ish than they are like FromSoft ish, I would say. Like they're kind of more horror than they are like fantasy. I mean, I guess you have dark fantasy, maybe that's what you would call it. But some of it is like really like close to being like in the horror genre, which I dig a lot. I really, really, really like that. I think it's very, very cool. Um, so the controls are great. The exploration is great. Like you always here's another thing with Beast of Reincarnation and with some games that drive me crazy is there should always be something in a corner. Like if I'm gonna walk around a building, put something behind the building. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like if there's like a mountaintop and for some reason there's like a little ledge and you could walk on that, like that's not the main way to go. You're supposed to go through the door, but there's this little ledge that you can kind of tiptoe around. Well, if you put that ledge there, like could you stick an item at the end of that path, please? And something that's like useful at all in any way? The answer in Beast of Reincarnation is no. There's a lot of walking around in that game, and there's just nothing there. And even so, when you do collect stuff, you're like, what am I doing with this? Answer nothing. Oh, this is maybe, maybe. the last completely amazing and original idea of Mortal Shell 2 that I wanted to mention. All right. This is a weird one. And if anybody can know or knows and can tell me if there's a game that inspired this mechanic or has also done this mechanic, let me know. But I don't remember ever seeing this before. And like, not only have I played a lot of Souls, like I've also played a lot of like 2D Souls likes, like The Last Faith and Blasphemous 1 and 2 and Salt and Sanctuary and like a whole bunch of those games too. The items like mushrooms in Mortal Shell 2, like any old item, you pick up a mushroom, right? And you're like, okay, a mushroom, what is this going to do? Yeah, maybe it'll give me like 10 HP if I eat the mushroom. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, not whoop-de-doo in Mortal Shell 2. And here's why not whoop-de-doo. They added this mechanic where collecting items has an incentive and an upgrade path. And depending on how many of those items you get bolstered effects from said item. So say it's the mushroom, right? And say that when you first pick up, a few of them, it does nothing. I don't remember if it does anything at the very, very beginning, or if you have to unlock the ability to activate it. But for sure, at some point, you can activate it. You can equip it to an active slot and like use that item like you would use your Estus flask or something. So it's like an additional um, healing item all of a sudden at your disposal. But the more you collect, like this, the more uses of that you can get per, regeneration at the bonfire. So say at the beginning, you've only collected a total of 10 of these things. Well, then you can use it once and then it doesn't regenerate until you rest. Okay, if you collect 20 of these mushrooms, now you get 2 uses until you rest. It's like this with like all of the items. So it creates this tremendous incentive all of a sudden to finding what in most games would be junk. Like you would consider it crap. Like, oh, who cares? Oh, wow, like another toadstool. I'll never use that. I mean, that's like a classic meme in a lot of JRPGs in particular, where you you finish the game without having used any of your items. I mean, I am notoriously bad with this in all games. There is some sort of like, personality issue that I have where I don't use items. I'm worried I'll need it later. And like maybe I'll use it if I'm positive that it's the final boss. There are plenty of games where I go through the whole thing and just collect every item that I see and happily do so and then never use them. But anyway, in Mortal Shell 2, they have created an incentive and an upgrade path for collecting everything. Everything. So it makes finding and picking up anything that you see just a little bit worth it. Just a little bit worth it. Like they through this system, in my opinion, they have solved an issue that a lot of games have where to fill out an otherwise empty world, they drop a bunch of crap around. Oh, here's some carrots and here's a turkey leg. But in this one, you're like, oh, sweet carrots. If I can get like 16 more carrots, then all of a sudden I can double, my stamina regeneration or whatever it is. The systems in Mortal Shell 2 are just really well developed. They're just really well thought out. They're really well integrated. And um, this also works with what are called tar stones. So I'm trying to think of what, in like the Diablo games, you kind of have like runes that you can socket into. Is it? It's not really like that. Anyway, the tar stones are just more items that you can equip that give you buffs. Let's just simply describe it that way. There are different types of buffs. So, like one of the buffs can be you can apply like like a bleed effect to your weapon, right? Like that could be one of the things. It's like you use this buff or you equip this tar stone, and now you can add bleed to your sword. Anyway, those have upgrade paths too. The freaking tar stones have upgrade paths. Um, I think depending on how many enemies you kill while they're equipped, I'll have to look into it more, whether there are like more sort of specified conditions that you have to fulfill in order to upgrade some of them. But either way, those things also can be upgraded and can be made more effective so that like maybe the effect lasts 5% longer or whatever it is. But either way, the point is there is always something to do. Not only there's always something to do in Mortal Shell 2, but you always feel like you're making some kind of progress somewhere, somehow, because of all of these little systems that they have in that game. It's just great. It's really, really, really great. And and it's not even a $70 game like all of these other games that are coming out now that are freaking $70, which just absolutely really bothers me. Even though I understand inflation, I understand that Fantasy Star 4 was like $900 in 1994. I get that. I also have found, well, I have found that very few of the games that are $70 are better than the games that are cheaper than that. I'll just put it that way. There are many, 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 many games I would rather play that even brand new are like $49.99 games than the $69.99 games that have all the budget in the world and they cost, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm like, this is boring. So anyway, that's my good and bad of August 2026. Let me know if you've played either of these games. The other game I played recently, before that was very controversial, was Metroid Prime 4. And my very quick review of Metroid, which I did finish, my very quick review of that game is that a lot of it is really great. A lot of the game itself is really great. And then there are like three things that are so bad, that are so head scratchingly, horrendously bad, that's what people had a problem with. That's why, it didn't get tens out of tens and it got, I don't remember what it got, sixes and sevens. The three things are as follows. One, the NPCs are terrible. I do not want NPCs walking around with Samus. I don't want them talking to Samus. I don't want talking really at all in a Metroid game. It should just be silence aside from atmospheric, gorgeous soundtrack. And then, the bleeps and the bloops and the explosions of the weapons. That's it. No talking. That's rule number 1 for Metroid. No talking. Okay, get rid of all the talking. All the NPCs really bad. Not only didn't add anything, but like greatly subtracted from the experience. They were all in the way. Number 2, the desert. Horrible. There was no need for the desert. I don't know what the original intention was for the desert. If they were trying to make it more like Breath of the Wild and they were going to have like way more shrines. They're like kind of our shrines, but like they're kind of a joke. And there are like 8 of them. There are these green crystals you have to drive your motorcycle into over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like Marshawn Lynch once said about running through somebody's face. So not only the desert, but then they had to add the motorcycle, and the motorcycle is the motorcycle my third thing? I said there were 3 things. I think motorcycle will be 2.5. So number 1, NPCs, horrible. Number 2, desert, horrible. 2.5, motorcycle, horrible. Get rid of the motorcycle. I don't want to ride a motorcycle in Metroid. I don't want to ride a motorcycle at Samus. Ever. Not once. Never do I want to do that. Nobody does. It's go play Grand Theft Auto and hop on a motorcycle if you want to. I don't need a motorcycle in Metroid. The motorcycle bosses were horrible. That freaking stupid dragon boss in the lava place, horrible. Worst boss in the game. Just plodding around, just circling around a lava puddle, like trying to hit like 37 weak area balls on this dragon's stomach. Not fun. Not a fun one. No one liked that. This is not possible. Nobody liked that. So no motorcycle. That's 2.5. 3 was the end because I don't know how many video games you've played, but typically there's like a final dungeon that's like the hardest dungeon in the game and is super epic and like builds momentum and tension in getting to the final boss. That doesn't happen at all in Metroid Prime 4. In Metroid Prime 4, do you know you spent the whole game gathering these keys and crashing your motorcycle into green crystals. You spent the whole game doing that. So you can unlock the final dungeon, this tower. You finally can get there. Oh my gosh, I did it. I spent a dozen hours or whatever it was. I gathered my team of mercenaries and my big robot that can punch anything. And now he can break through the force field and get to the tower. And here's what it is. Are you ready? An elevator. It's a big long elevator. It's a big elevator. It goes for a while. It's a decent riding elevator. I guess you get your money's worth as far as how much elevating happens during the elevation period of the final dungeon of the game to get to the final boss. You ride a big elevator. That's it. That's what you've been working for. That's what you've been risking life and limb and turning into a morph ball and gathering all of your little attributes so you can magnetize and ball on the ceiling and speed up really fast and hyperball and spin around things and create engines. And you did all of that. You've done all of these things so that you could ride an elevator. So the funny thing to me is, or really, it's not funny, it's sad. Here's the sad thing. If they just, I mean, this isn't like an easy thing, literally. This is an easy thing on paper. And my guess, I don't know how the development worked on this. I know it was bad because they like gave up. They started over. They like threw whatever the first Metroid Prime 4 was in the garbage can. They sent it down the proverbial garbage chute and then started over on this one. But during the pre-production phase, it would have been really easy if they just gave me a call. They said, Kevin, what do you think of our plan? And I said, looks great. Dungeons are cool. Power-ups, cool. Graphics look great. The psychic abilities, not the most interesting thing ever, but whatever. It's a novelty. Here's the thing. No NPCs. Get rid of the desert and just connect the areas, the different zones, the different dungeons. Just connect them. Just connect them. No desert in between. Just connect them. And I don't know, if you could spend a little time to make a final dungeon, that would be nice too. Here's the last thing I'll say about that really bothered me with Metroid Prime 4. So you need to go back to this hub to like upgrade things. So like if you want to get an ice beam, okay, you don't just, in other Metroid games, you find the ice beam and then you have it. It goes and now you have the ice beam. Okay. In this one, they had this great idea where instead you go to a nerd, and the nerd is in a hub zone in the first like main area of the game. His name is Mackenzie the Nerd, and he's a nerd, so he will build things and fix things. So you get an ice chip, like a computer chip, and you have to give it to old Mackenzie so that he can implement it into your gun. It takes forever to get to Mackenzie. Forever. I cannot tell you how long it takes it to get. It's many, many, many minutes. So if you're like on the other side of the desert and you need to get to Mackenzie, you need to drive or ride your stupid motorcycle all the way across the entire desert. That's not all. Now you have to enter the area where he is, walk all the way across the outside of it and go inside. That's not all. Then once you're inside, then you need to like ride a tram. So now you have to like get in a tram. This is Metroid Prime 4 is like all about like transportation. It's like elevators and trams and motorcycles. They're obsessed with transportation in this game. So now you're like waiting for the tram to take you to Mackenzie, which takes a while. I'm assuming that the tram is just a long loading screen. I was playing this on Switch 2. I don't even know how long that loading time is on the original Switch. But you're not even done yet. Even when you get to the end of the tram, you have to, if I remember correctly, you have to go through like at least 2 more areas to get to Mackenzie. There's like an open area that you have to like walk through and then make a right and then open a door and then you're like, I think in the area with Mackenzie, and then walk over to Mackenzie. Anyway, you have to do this several times in the game because it's like the hub area you have to return to. And man, God forbid you go there and you didn't have the thing that you needed and it was just a wasted trip, because now you have to get out of it. Now you have to backtrack all the way out. So you got to go all the way out through that one area. You got to go all the way out here. You got to go back through another cutscene. You got to sit there and wait for it. And then you got to exit that place. And then you're getting attacked by bugs. And then you like finally can get back on your motorcycle. And now you're back in the desert driving around an empty desert on your motorcycle. So all of that could have been eliminated and would have made the game so much better, because the rest of it, the shooting, the graphics, the controls, a lot of the puzzles, so much of it is great. Anyway, I wasn't expecting to talk about Metroid Prime 4, but here we are. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed a little bit of this gamer talk. I hope it didn't bore people too much. Well, if you're not a gamer, you probably stopped listening a long time ago. And, hopefully we'll be back next week with a topic more to your liking. But anyway, thanks to our patrons for supporting the podcast. If you like the podcast continuously, frequently, forever, and you want to support it, then please go over to Patreon. Look up The Create Unknown, or just go to patreon.com/The Create Unknown and join us. Support us, become part of what we're doing here. And until then, we will see you next week, and we'll see you, Space Cowboys.